So I don't normally do reactions on this channel. This channel is mostly about Dragon Ball analysis and things of that nature, reviews and things of that nature, historical stuff. But I had a bunch of people tell me about this MatPat video for Film Theory, Dragon Ball Z. Frieza's 5 minutes was not a mistake. And of course, Frieza being my favorite character in Dragon Ball and me being somebody who, you know, loves this series. I've been watching this thing for God since I was a kid, right? Like this is like I'm a lifelong fan. And I've also been covering this thing for 6 years almost here on YouTube. A lot of folks are saying, you know, Geekdom, what's your opinion on this? And so I decided to do something a little bit different this time. And I am going to do a reaction to MatPat's video. Now this will be a little bit of a different kind of reaction in that I'm going to be watching the video with you guys. I had some audio problems earlier when I tried to do this. Should all be fixed now. I'm going to watch the video with you guys as you guys are watching me watch it. But I'm also going to give commentary. I'm going to pause it, give my thoughts. If there's something he says that I find interesting or he makes a mistake, I can tell you, you know, what the correct information is or if he gets something right. But usually MatPat does have decent research. Now, that being said, he's done 3 Dragon Ball Z videos, including this one. He did the one about the Kamehameha. I did not agree with that video, actually. I did not agree with it. I thought his assumption or his, not assumption, but his theory on it being plasma, it's a theory, but it, you know, it's still, I didn't agree with that. Now, the Ultra Instinct Shaggy video he did, the second one, I did not see that video, so I can't comment on it. But this one is the third one, and let's see, because I think, based on the title, the 5 minutes was not a mistake. And I think I know where he's going with it, because I've been told some things, but we'll see. I have my own thoughts. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. And if you're new here, subscribe for constant Dragon Ball content. I love Dragon Ball so very much. Hit the like button if you're new or if you're a longtime subscriber. I thank you for your support, of course, as always. And let's go ahead and get into it. So let's see. Here we go. MatPat, Film Theory, Dragon Ball Z, Frieza's 5 minutes was not a mistake.
How many Saiyans does it take to change a light bulb? 1, but it'll take him 17 episodes to do it. Goku begins removing the light bulb from the box. Next time on Dragon Ball Z! Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory, where we aspire to reach Frieza levels of dialogue.
I love MatPat's editing, yo. Love MatPat's editing. It's always been on point. His team over there is really good.
What's the deal? Is your phone call over? Good thing they reached you before I disconnected your number.
Those cringy dub lines make me smile. Like, they're not what they say in the Japanese version at all, but they're so, like, hilariously bad in some cases. Some are actually funny, and that's one of them right there.
Poetry. Simply poetry. Now, it's been a long time since we last covered Dragon Ball. In fact, How to Do a Kamehameha Wave was one of the first uploads on this channel. Unless, of course, you include that one video where I talked about the power level of Ultra Instinct Shaggy. Remember when that was a meme for a hot minute? But man, people love Dragon Ball. It played a major hand in popularizing anime in the West. It gave Cartoon Network some of the highest ratings they'd ever seen. And according to the NPD group, Dragon Ball Z is the #1 selling anime brand of all time. I mean, sure, it may have gotten some odd glances from your parents when they saw you watch Trunks scream at Frieza for 12 seconds straight in slow motion.
What's funny about that is in the Japanese version, there's like no screaming from that scene. It's all music playing and they just muted Trunks. But I do remember that very long and awkward Eric Vale scream. It's just funny to me.
But at its heart, it's really a show all about overcoming obstacles in the face of overwhelming adversity. And
that's a fact.
Each other's faces
that is true.
But buried amongst the Dragon Ball franchise's 600 plus episodes, 19 movies, and 1 Vegeta mustache, one battle
20 movies now. Broly was the 20th movie.
in particular has gone down in infamy, not as the most insanely powerful, ridiculously destructive fight, nor as the most satisfying and well-written story arc, but as the longest, drawn-out fight that's ever graced our TV screens. Dare I say the longest fight in the history of all of television. Yes, I am talking about the Frieza saga, for those of you who are nodding your heads or able to read the title. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with DBZ, the Frieza saga refers to episodes 75 through 107 of the original Dragon Ball Z run.
Now, just to clarify, the Frieza saga, the Frieza arc, actually begins with Dragon Ball Z episode 36, which is right after Vegeta leaves, and they start talking about going to Namek. It actually begins there, but when Funimation released their home releases and some fan subs as well prior to that, they split up the arc to like where it's Namek Saga, Ginyu Force Saga, or Ginyu Saga, and then Frieza Saga, right? But the reality is that the entire Frieza Saga that all counts as being the Frieza arc, right? Everything. So even though by Funimation standards it is episode 75, the reality is that the story of the Frieza arc begins in episode 36.
During this arc, the Z fighters go to the planet Namek in order to gather the Dragon Balls, which will allow them to summon a dragon able to grant one wish. Their goal is to revive all those who died at the hands of the Saiyans several sagas ago. Frieza, the main antagonist of the saga, overhears talk about the Namekian Dragon Balls and sets out to the planet to wish for immortality. The two groups eventually meet, and since this is Dragon Ball, they fight for a very long time. To give you an idea, they're on Namek starting at episode 36, and the big bad of Frieza really doesn't do all that much until episode 75.
That's what I was talking about. That's when the arc begins, but they were not on Namek in episode 36. He's actually wrong about that. 36 is when they were discussing going to Namek. They don't actually go to Namek until episode 40 something or other. Remember, there's the whole fake Namek stuff and the space alien kids and all that. So just to clarify, in case somebody was confused, wanted to clarify that for y'all.
75! And here you thought my episodes were full of filler, but of all that filler...
That's not all filler, though. That is from 36 to 75. That's the story. Gohan and Krillin and Vegeta dealing with Zarbon, Dodoria, the Ginyu Force. All of that is between episodes 36 and 75. That's all part of the story.
Nothing is as infamous as this moment.
5 minutes. That's how long you have.
5 minutes is all that I need. Now, in most cases, this would make it seem like the planet should blow up in, 5 minutes. On account of the fact that he just said that. But this is Dragon Ball Z. So 5 minutes through the magic of anime is turned into, and I'm not exaggerating this at all, 2 hours, 38 minutes, and 55 seconds, give or take about minutes. That is from the end of episode 97 to the destruction of the planet in episode 106. So what all happens in that 2.5 hour span of time? Well, 1 hour and 18 minutes are spent showing Namek's destruction, the events on Earth, King Kai's home, Kami's lookout, subplots with Vegeta and Gohan that don't include Frieza, Bulma scenes, and lastly, reminiscing, because what better time is there to look back at your past decisions? 35 minutes are spent talking, and this is specifically anyone talking to Frieza, so long as it's actively happening on the battlefield. And finally, 42 minutes are actually spent throwing fisticuffs as well as concentrated balls of energy. Now, it would be natural to assume that maybe these players perceive time differently, and so that's why a 5-minute estimate balloons out to nearly 3 hours. That the show has somehow slowed down the fight so that we can see it and comprehend it. That it's all cinematic timing. This, at least, seems to be the most popular theory as to what's actually going on here.
The animating staff animated the fight so that you can understand what's happening.
Looking into the comments of these sorts of videos, they also seem to agree.
Shout out to Seth the Programmer for getting a shout out here. That's pretty cool. And yeah, no, the cinematic timing thing has always been something Dragon Ball has done. Even Toriyama himself has talked about how he has to illustrate fights for his manga readers, right? And the anime is the same thing because, they're moving so fast that we can't see it, but he has to slow things down, especially with how ki blasts work and things like that. He explains this in interviews. So that all makes sense. However, the problem is the talking. When you talk, Frieza and Goku talk back and forth a lot. And so that's where you run into problems. That's why it can't really be 5 minutes, even though I do think that the fighting is definitely truncated because of how fast they're moving. That is without question a fact.
Except there's one problem. The 35 minutes spent talking to Frieza.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Travel so fast, no matter what your power level is.
Exactly.
So sure, you can assume that literally everything else in that 3 hour block of time is happening concurrently or happening at the speed of light. But the talking scenes prove that at minimum, the planet explodes no less than 35 minutes after Frieza's original 5-minute prediction. So then why? Why would Frieza say 5 minutes if Namek clearly survives much longer than that? That, loyal theorists, is what I'm here to answer today. Personally, I believe that Frieza did make a miscalculation about the time at all. In fact, I think he knew it would last much longer the entire time.
I have my own thoughts on that. I'll give you all my thoughts on that later in this video. But we'll see. We'll see what MatPat says and his reasoning behind all this.
So let's hope your bodies can take it, because today we end the debate once and for all. I'm going to start with the simple facts. If you do something a lot, no matter the task, you get a good feel for it. And when it comes to blowing up planets, Frieza is a pro. He knows what type of planet, how much power, and how much time it'll take for the whole thing to go kaboom. Look.
That's not necessarily the case. I understand why he would say that, but there's really not enough evidence to prove that he's an expert at timing how long a planet takes to blow up. We saw him blow up Planet Vegeta, and presumably there's other planets too that he's blown up in the past, although we don't see them on screen, besides Planet Vegeta, and of course Planet Namek. But there's no actual evidence that he knows, that he has all that knowledge. It's a theory, like MatPat would say, it is a film theory, or in this case, an anime theory.
Look no further than Planet Vegeta, which
Right.
he eliminates without breaking a sweat. So what was his issue with Planet Namek? Why wasn't he able to destroy it as easily as other planets? Well, first, it was much denser than he expected. What do I mean by this? Well, have you ever noticed that Namek has a really long day cycle? Like, really, really long? As in every single shot on Namek is in the daytime? Well, because Akira Toriyama hated drawing night scenes in the manga, he made Namek tidally locked. This means its rotational period matches its orbital period. And I guess just to make sure that there would be daylight super all the time, Namek is locked not just with one, not just with two, but with 3 suns.
All of that's correct.
This is something that's actually confirmed in the manga. Now,
Yes, I gotta point this out here. That is correct, but here's what's funny about this. So, this manga panel, this screenshot from the manga, this is not from the Viz translation, y'all. This is from the old school fan translation from the late 90s, early 2000s of the manga. This is how I read the manga when I was a lot younger. That's where he got this from. And it's funny to me because this is pretty much like, I don't want to say a bootleg, but it's a fan translation. It's not the official Viz one. And that makes me smile because you can tell by the font. That's how you can tell. It makes me smile because I haven't seen this in a very, very long time. But this is how I read the manga. But it's interesting that he found like that version, not the official Viz one. That's interesting to me.
typically, planets are ejected from these sorts of tri-star systems because they're just too unstable to maintain. The gravity of 3 massive stars all acting on the same ball of dirt would normally pull a planet to shreds, ripping it in multiple different directions. But somehow Namek is not only able to stay in orbit, but also stay intact. So how could that possibly be? Well, it means one of 2 things. Either Namek is ridiculously huge, or it's ridiculously dense. Now, there's not really a frame of reference for its size, but we do get one indication that the world isn't particularly big. In the manga, Frieza's henchman Midoriya says, quote, "Without her scanners, it's gonna be a real pain tracking down these last 2 Dragon Balls. Oh well, at least it's not too large of a planet." Plus, we see as the planet's collapsing that Gohan is able to travel back and forth between the battlefield and the capsule in a relatively short amount of time, but without seeing the effects of Frieza's planet destroyer. As such, we can assume that...
I mean, Gohan was a lot faster in this arc than he was in the past, so to me that's not really a relevant point here to his argument, but everything else he's saying makes sense so far.
Planet's strength is coming not from its size, but rather its density, extending the time it takes for the planet to blow up. And this surprises Frieza. He even makes a comment after he fires his attack at Namek's core, stating that,
"I have got too much power."
this line isn't to Goku, by the way. He's not even facing him. He says it to himself because he knows immediately that it's gonna take longer than he initially thought. And when Goku calls him out on the next line, you see his attention audibly turn.
You couldn't do it. You couldn't go through with it after all, huh?
So what do you do if you're Frieza in this moment? You've miscalculated your attack, and you're on the ropes against a really difficult opponent. Well, one thing that we've seen throughout the various battles is that Frieza is pretty darn smart. He gets a lot dumber as the series goes on, but in this main arc, he's very strategic, serving as the polar opposite to Goku. Where Goku fights on fair terms, Frieza fights dirty. Where Goku improvises, Frieza strategizes. Interestingly enough, despite...
I mean, he's right, but I don't think Goku's that much of like an improvisational guy always. He's also a strategist too when it comes to combat. So, but I see why he would say that, because in that fight, Frieza had the upper hand for the majority of it. Let's be real about that.
Despite all the boasting and confidence, Frieza is never one to assume things will just work out. Take the destruction of planet Vegeta. To prevent an uprising and the loss of his throne, he destroys an entire planet purely based off the legend of the Super Saiyan. In addition to militaristic self-preservation and running an empire 448 planets deep,
That number's correct, but I just want to say that in the original Toriyama manga, the original reason as to why Frieza blew up Planet Vegeta was because he was worried about the Saiyans uprising and ganging up against him. The Super Saiyan legend was added in the same arc shortly after that, but originally it was just that he was worried about the Saiyans revolting or, against him, an insurrection or whatever. And then Toriyama adds Super Saiyan, and then actually in Dragon Ball Minus, the 2013 manga, where he revealed, Gine for the first time, Goku's mother. In that version of the story, Frieza knew what Super Saiyan God was. And, it's like, it's a retcon. I really don't understand how Frieza knew about Super Saiyan God, but whatever. It's not really a big deal. But just wanted to clarify that point and make that tidbit for y'all that was the original reason. It was more so he was worried about the Saiyans ganging up on him, not the legend, until shortly after that arc. It was... shortly in that arc. It was the same arc, but Toriyama changed his mind right in the middle of it, like right as he was writing it.
Frieza is constantly using psychological warfare against his opponents. He seems to be a follower of Sun Tzu's teachings, because you can actually trace...
I love Sun Tzu. I love the art of war.
Here's an example from the book. Rouse him and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him to reveal himself so as to find out his vulnerable spots. For all the memes about it not being his final form, Frieza hides his true nature...
But that very same thing that he quoted from Sun Tzu is what Goku does to Frieza in Resurrection F. So Goku uses those tactics as well. That's not just Frieza who does it. In fact, so does Vegeta.
Of this Sun Tzu quote. A true fighter doesn't reveal his true abilities until he's fully sussed out his opponents. Actually, he does it quite a bit. One of Frieza's signature characteristics is that he often doesn't move a limb during a fight. While it could just be a result of how sure of himself he is, it also happens to be one of the other strategies in the art of war. Quote again, be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. Be extremely mysterious, even to the point of soundlessness. Thereby, you can be the director of the opponent's fate. By not allowing his movements to be predictable, he is a total wild card on the battlefield. You can't dodge or block what you can't see coming. And when your opponent isn't even moving, there's no way to prepare for a counterattack. All of this plays into Frieza's psychological warfare. Throughout the series, we see instance after instance of Frieza belittling his opponents. When fighting Nail, Frieza praises his power level of 42,000, only to cut it down by revealing his own to be 530,000. Building his confidence only to break it down, completely crushing the genuine effort Nail had in powering up, making the soon-to-be struggle all for naught. And again, these are all lessons from the art of war. Quote, supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. If your opponent is temperamental, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. If he's taking his ease, give him no rest. A great example of this is when Gohan, Vegeta, and Dende are forced to watch helplessly as Frieza literally plays with Krillin impaled on his horn.
Yeah, that's it, buckaroo, ride 'em, cowboy.
By treating this powerful fighter like a mere plaything, Frieza makes his raw power and inhumanity seem that much more uncomparable, striking fear into everyone watching, including Vegeta himself. They're demoralized. They've lost the battle before it's really begun because they're so afraid of their opponent.
They really weren't demoralized. They kept going. But I see why. I see why he would say that was a strategy. Frieza always toys with his meat. He's always been that way. In fact, a lot of Dragon Ball villains do that, and it usually costs them.
Fast forward a bit, and we can see the same kind of twisted demoralization tactics used during his fight with Piccolo. He intentionally humiliates and tortures Piccolo for the fun of it, but also to send a warning to everyone else watching from below.
That feeling of helplessness I was hoping to inspire must be settling in nicely.
Even
Interesting, because he uses footage of episode 94 of Frieza fighting Piccolo in his final form, but I think that was an editing mistake, because I think he meant to talk about the third form Frieza fight with Piccolo. That's what I'm guessing here. Let me go back a tiny bit to pick up on this next point here he's about to make.
This I was hoping to inspire must be settling in nicely.
Even in Piccolo's final moments, he lets the Namekian resurface just so he can finish the job in front of Gohan. Because Frieza has super hearing, he knows that Piccolo means a lot to the boy, so he forces Gohan to watch his death, devastating Gohan's morale.
That's wrong. No, that's actually completely wrong. MatPat missed the boat on that one. What happens is in the original manga, when Frieza comes out of the crater, when the spirit bomb hits him, he is purposely targeting Goku's friends to take them out, to hurt Goku, not to hurt Gohan. He first shoots a blast and kills Piccolo. Well, he doesn't kill him, but he thinks he killed him. Then he, of course, kills Krillin. Then he says, I'm going to take the boy next. So the idea is that Frieza wanted to kill Piccolo, Krillin, and then Gohan just to get Goku mad, just to get back at Goku for almost killing him with the Genkidama, right? In the anime version, it's a little bit different because Frieza fires a blast at Goku and Piccolo kind of moves in the way and kind of takes the blast. That was in the anime version, but in the manga version, it was clear that Frieza wanted to take out everybody before Goku. So it wasn't that he had beef with Gohan, he had beef with Goku. Goku's the guy he was fighting. So I'm not sure why MatPat wrote that. He definitely missed it on that one. He was not right on that one.
This fight with Goku, he's constantly bringing up how he's killed so many people. The Namekians, his friends, specifically Krillin, all in an effort to distract and anger Goku, but it doesn't work. The two start fighting in episode 87, but 10 episodes later, Frieza's established that he can't win by conventional means. So his most drastic offensive strategy is to blow up the entire planet, knowing that Goku will die and he'll be okay in the vacuum of space. But when the planet doesn't completely blow up like anticipated, he has to come up with a plan to lie. Following another of Sun Tzu's quotes, all warfare is based on deception. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. By the time Frieza uses destroy the planet, he's figured the only thing he has to do is force Goku to rush, to screw up somewhere, and look for an opening to deliver the final blow. By setting the 5-minute timer, Frieza intends to plant fear and doubt into Goku's head. There's no time to think. You ever play chess using a timer? It's the same thing. It forces you to move faster and constantly be thinking about the clock ticking down in the background.
So MatPat's basically saying that Frieza lied, which that makes sense to a degree because that isn't Frieza's nature to lie. However, I still feel like it is a miscalculation. I think that he intended to blow up the planet, and he probably, like he even says, he didn't hit the nail on the head. He didn't really blow it up like he did Planet Vegeta because the planet's so dense. That all made sense. But I do think that the 5-minute thing, Frieza probably actually believed it was 5 minutes. I don't think he lied about that part. I could be wrong, but I don't think he did. And the reason why I don't think this is because you have to remember the narrator is also saying there's 2 minutes left, there's 1 minute left. So even the narrator is going along with it. And historically, the narrator of Dragon Ball doesn't really go along with what Frieza says. In fact, I think even King Kai Osama, also goes along with it. You would think if Frieza was lying, Kai Osama would say, no. It's not going to blow up in 5 minutes. It'll be longer than that. It'll be 35 minutes. He didn't say that. So to me, the only thing that makes sense is that they were all miscalculating, that they all thought it would be 5 minutes, not taking into account the planet was dense. So even though I think MatPat was absolutely right for about 90% of this video, I don't think Frieza was really fully lying here. I think he actually believed it was 5 minutes, and it wound up being longer than that. That's always been my thought. That's always been my theory, if you want to call it that. It makes the most sense to me. And obviously, MatPat believes it to a degree. I mean, he added the lying part, but everything else he says is pretty on point. It's just always been that way for me, And I think that, plus cinematic timing and everything, I think it wasn't 2.5 hours, but I do think it was a lot longer than 5 minutes. I think 30 minutes makes the sense. That doesn't make sense to me. 35 minutes, maybe more than that. So that all sort of makes sense. Because remember, he hit the planet core, and the core, it takes time for that core to blow up because the planet was so dense. So what he said in this video about the density, 100% correct. I do agree with that.
Frieza clearly letting his opponent know that Goku will die in the explosion while Frieza survives. Whether it's true or not, it sets the stakes super high for Goku. He has to finish the job now to avenge his friends, but the clock is ticking. Just like Sun Tzu said, it created chaos, and there is opportunity in chaos. The fact of the matter is that Frieza, without a doubt, used the whole 5-minute bit as a means of psychological warfare to ensure Goku's defeat. The only problem was that he not only underestimated the energy needed to destroy destroy the planet, he
Right.
also underestimated Goku himself. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And Goku begins turning the light bulb. Next time on Dragon Ball Z. You know,
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, the video's over and it's going to go into the sponsorship stuff. I think that does make a lot of sense, that Frieza miscalculated, but I don't think he was just straight up lying. Or maybe he was, stretching the truth out. Again, the theory is, I don't think the theory is really wrong. I mean, it makes sense. It's just that I think that it was more so a miscalculation. I think he actually believed it would be 5 minutes since for the core to blow up, and it took longer because how dense the planet was. That's always been my belief. So most of the video was right. Some of it was wrong. I corrected it in the video. But I did enjoy it. I enjoy MatPat's editing. I enjoy the research. He did do some pretty good research here into the video. You can tell he's more of a casual fan, but that's okay because he did his homework for the majority of this and it was fine. So no complaints as far as that goes. A few mistakes here and there that I pointed out, but nothing that I think was like, it wasn't like tons of errors, Anyways, that's it for my little breakdown reaction thing. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And leave a comment, like it. If you're new here, subscribe. I do Dragon Ball content. Been a fan for, 25 years, maybe more than that. I lost count. Love this franchise, and I love you guys. Take care of yourself and each other, and stay safe.